Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's September 8th, 2011, and this is episode 297. Nik Software improved on perfection when they updated Silver Efex Pro to Silver Efex Pro 2, and today we're going to take a look at how to use this amazing black and white conversion plugin and touch on some of the new features. I was pretty impressed. I really did think that the first version, just plain old Silver Efex Pro, was perfect, and it had been my favoured method of converting to black and white. I know that you can do black and white conversions in Lightroom and in Photoshop, and there's loads of tutorials on how to do that stuff, but there's nothing in my mind that is as quick and easy to do and yet has such amazing results as Silver Efex Pro. And that was based on the first version. The second version takes it to a new level. So what we're going to do today is, you might remember that I did a video podcast similar to the one that we're going to do today about 10 months ago in episode 267, and that was taking you through version 1. And then, this version 2 has been out for 6 months now. I've been using it since I was in Hokkaido in February this year, and I've been flicking through a few images here. I've got a whole bunch of images that I wanted to just quickly look at, but what I'm going to do, you'll see at the moment, I'm only showing you the black and whites, and here we're going to take a look at the color versions as well, because quite often the color version is a pretty boring image. You get a bit of a knack for how to shoot an image to make a good black and white, and sometimes it's just that the color doesn't really add anything. It doesn't make the image any better, and I think, okay, I'll try a black and white. This one was one of those. I didn't intend to do a black and white shot. This was shot in May this year. I'd got my wife there blowing the dandelion puffball thing there and making the seeds blow away. And a few weeks ago I tried a black and white conversion on this because it seemed a bit plain and nondescript, and this is the result. And we're going to take a look at how I did this today. It's very easy, but there were just a few extra things that I did to make it just that little bit more special. But then if we go down, these are some images. This is Patagonia on the way back from Antarctica earlier this year. Again, relatively nondescript, but when you do a black and white, just look at how the sky pops out. That's just virtually almost just a plain white sky, and look how the black and white makes the sky pop out on that. And all of the texture you have texture all around the rocks, and you've got these the brush vegetation. Just really makes this image. And this is another one. I think this is Steeple Jason in the Falkland Islands, and just look at that sky again. There's more detail in this sky, but look at the way that happens, and also it brings out a lot of additional information, a lot of different, the detail in this foreground as well just pops out. So you see that it can make a big difference. This is a long exposure, and this again, I knew that I was going to do a black and white of this because it just wasn't an exciting scene, but when you do this to it, it's, again, to me, just it even brings out detail in the water here. So this was one of the biggest surprises. This was, again, another 2-minute exposure, because the penguins here, this is way down in Antarctica, but these penguins here are molting at this time of year. Well, at the time of year we were there, and they don't move much when they're molting, and so they managed to stay still for, I think there's a little bit of movement in, you can see there's a little bit of movement here, they're turning their heads around and that, but they were pretty much still for the whole 2 minutes, which was great. And here is what happens when you do a black and white conversion, and this is one of my favourite images this year at least, but maybe of all time. And here we did something slightly different. It's a straight black and white conversion, but I actually did something in Photoshop with this that we'll take a look at later. Basically, I took the layer with the Silver Efex Pro black and white conversion and made the opacity 80%, so that just a little bit of the colour the original colour of the Ezodia comes through, giving it a slight duotone look, but I just thought that worked for this image. And here's another one, nice blue sky, again a long exposure. I think that I tend to find that long exposures work better for me, because you've got the movement in the sky and the clouds, and it just works so much better when you convert to black and white. And one last quick one, this is the cow, giraffe, camel sort of thing, driftwood, and I again brought the sky out a little bit there, brought out the texture in the beast, and you know, really enjoyed doing these conversions. But we're going to go in and take a look now and really show you that it's just so easy to do. So let's first of all, you know, you'll go over to Nik Software. I am going to get the browser up and show you here. One thing that I want you to remember is that if you decide based on this today that you want to buy Silver Efex Pro 2 or any of the Nik software, if you go to martinbaileyphotography.com and click on the blog, or blog.martinbaileyphotography.com, you'll find this tile down there on the right. It's in a number of places across my website, but basically this will give you a 15% discount. It doesn't work in all countries, doesn't work here in Japan unfortunately, but some countries, if this doesn't work in your local store, you can try calling them and they'll give you a 15% discount based on this. If you just want to try Silver Efex Pro, go to niksoftware.com. You can try it for 2 weeks without a license, and then if you like it, you know, use that code and get 15% off when you buy. So let's open this up. Once you've installed Silver Efex Pro, you can't actually see a lot of these menus because I'm capturing a part of a larger screen, and I'm showing you the wrong one anyway. Edit. If you go into the edit menu once you've installed Silver Efex Pro, I've still got version 1 installed. It still works if you installed it before Lion, but if not, I believe you need the second version to install. But why would you go to 1 if you're starting off now? So when you go to open an image, what I normally do, if I've made changes to an image in Lightroom, I'll use the edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments, and I'll select TIFF, ProPhoto RGB, 16-bit, 300 resolution, no compression, and what that'll do is, if you've done any cropping, any dust removal, anything like that in Lightroom, it'll make a copy with all of that done for you. Now, just to make this a little bit quicker, I've already got a TIFF made that I'm just going to open up in Silver Efex Pro. Now, you'll see here that what it does when you first get into Silver Efex Pro, here are the presets that it comes with. You have underexposure, overexposed by 1 EV, high contrast, like this. This is very close to what I ended up with. High contrast, and that's smooth. So one of the things, we'll touch on these as we go through, but one of the things that was improved in version 2 is that there are now many more presets. I'm just flicking through these as we talk, but you know, some of these I don't like what it does to this particular image. They will work with, you know, high key. You can do some very nice high key portraiture, for example. But as you go through, you'll see that there. I mean, I'm only a third of the way down the list here now, and we still have a lot of presets to work that we can try here. If you go way down, you'll start to see some antique plate. You know, as I say, they don't always work with every image. You know, you really need to use these based on what your image is all about. But once I've created, I usually start with these the presets that come with Silver Efex Pro, but then I'll go in and I'll actually save. You see here, you've got an add preset button. I'll usually save a preset once I've made a few changes to one of the original ones that I like, and this is you'll see it's called MBP Dandelion Ball. So, you know, basically this is the preset that I used as a base for this image. Now, one other great thing about Silver Efex Pro 2 is that before, when you worked from Lightroom, if you added a preset and created a preset, They were only available within Lightroom, but now if you save a preset, they're available automatically in Lightroom and Photoshop. I'm not sure about Aperture, I don't have Aperture loaded, but it's great that they're now shared and you don't have to mess around exporting them from one and importing them into the other. Okay, so let's take a look now at the right side. Here we have the brightness, contrast, structure. These sliders were here before, but now we have much more control over the highlights, midtones and shadows. So you can see here I've got 0 selected for the midtones, but if I take that down, it does exactly what it says. It reduces the brightness in the midtones, those mid-grays in the background and at some points on the dandelion ball, and also you can bring them up if you wanted to. The shadows, I've taken them down slightly here to darken that background. The background was already pretty dark once we'd played around with this a little bit, but one of the things that I want to really show you here is one of the new features, the dynamic brightness. This is just so cool. If you see how this affects the image, I'm not sure how this works, but it makes a really nice job of what it does. So you basically take that down a little bit there, and it really gets rid of the, let me just go back to the original preset. So you see that I'm down to -37, and if I take that back up, you'll see that the background becomes quite bright, but also it seems to be working a lot on the white of the dandelion ball. So I'm going to leave that there. Really like this slider. And next you'll see that we have the contrast, and again now you've got an amplify whites and amplify blacks button slider. You'll see that as we move this down, so reducing the amplify blacks effect, you'll see that the background comes out quite a lot. I don't want that. I want to really focus on the dandelion ball here, so I'm going to bring that up to about 50, and amplify whites too, same thing. It's really punching those whites up. So this is one of the things. I'm going to go back to my preset, but you'll see how I use these. And also soft contrast, I've got +20 on the soft contrast slider here, and this is really, you can see how this works. The soft parts, I'm not sure exactly if this is what it's doing, but it seems like the soft areas of the image in the background are blurred, going darker, but it's really bringing out those details in the white dandelion ball there. And again, this is really nice effect. Structure, I generally pretty much always add at least sort of 20 to 30 structure. You'll see that as we do this, it really snaps in the detail in the dandelion ball there. If you were working on portraits, you could drop this down to get some nice soft skin effect. But I generally, for most of my flowers and landscape work, I generally increase the structure. And again, you can increase the structure in the highlights, the midtones or the shadows, and even fine structure. So you're getting much more control now than you had in version 1. And this was always there, but I'll just mention it. You can also protect the tonality in the shadows and the highlights by using these sliders here. You'll see how that, if you turn that off, the shadows go very dark. Move it into the middle there, and we bring the background out a little bit more. And with the whites, it doesn't seem to do much on here, but you can just see a slight difference as we wiggle that around. Now, before we go on, I'm going to take a look at these control points in a moment. Before we go on, I do want to mention the color filters. Now, you'll see that if I click on the white here, no color filter, it doesn't change anything, and that's because I didn't have a color filter added. But when you click through these, it basically allows more light to get through, like an old black and white filter, more light to get through based on the colour of the filter. You see there's a lot of green in this image, and this seems to let through most light compared to that. But if I go from green to blue, it lets through virtually none of the green. It's really brings this whole thing right down. I will take that back, but this is something that you should play with. It's very, very useful. And also there's a detail slider. You can change the strength of the filter and the hue that it uses. You can use this to select a hue rather than the buttons if you want to. If you go down to film types, you'll see that you've got this sensitivity slider, and I've done a lot of playing around with this as well. But basically here, say you can go in and mess around again, because there was a lot of green in that background. You can bring that out with this. It's really just fine tuning, but another way to figure, to make your images as close to what you want as possible. Now, I generally have these saved in presets, and literally I'll show you, but a lot of the time I don't play with any of these. I'll maybe come down and click on the red, and I'll see which filter works best based on the image. But apart from that, I don't play with a lot of them. A lot of my black and white conversions take 30 seconds, no more. But one time, if you have an image that you want, say what I did with this, I don't like the way the background got these light areas in the background. So what you can do is you click the control point button there, and you drop one, but what you have to do is drop the control point exactly on the tone that you want to work on. And I'm going to try and bring down this background, and the first thing you do is increase the size to, it doesn't matter if it goes over. You see how this is, it was overlapping with the edge of the dandelion ball. That doesn't matter, because it's only going to affect the dark areas. Now, some parts of that dandelion ball might be a little bit darker, a little bit sort of mid-tone-ish, so it can affect it a little bit, but I'm generally going to leave that there. And then what we'll do is we'll take the brightness and we'll drop it down. Now, it does seem to be affecting the ball a little bit, but you see how it's mainly affecting that mid-tone, and that's what I wanted. Now, I want to do the same thing down here, and just remove this light patch here. So what I want to do is make sure that this is selected, and I'm going to duplicate the control point that I created earlier. Bring that down and place it over the area that I want to change the brightness of, but then reduce the size down so that it's really only covering that area. And now you'll see, if we turn this off, you'll see that I've selectively reduced the right side and that bottom area. And if I do see though that it's changing the whiteness of the dandelion ball a little bit, so what I want to do is I want to take get another control point and drop that onto the white, and then just open it up a little bit, maybe find some white a little bit closer to the middle. And here I'm going to increase the brightness, and that's really just going to bring some of that back. And then you'll see here it's maybe a little bit too bright, but you'll see that you can protect areas if you don't want them to be affected by just dropping another control point in and reversing the effect. Now, just to show you what I was talking about earlier, you'll see as I move around here, if I take this and go onto a darker area, it changes just the darker areas, and as we flick through, you'll see it changing just the areas, the colours or the tonal values that match. So it's white. If I'm on white here, it'll change the whites around here, but not the blacks. And so you've got a lot of control. Now, when you're done, if you want to, you can, like I said, add a preset that will basically allow you to save this. It doesn't save the control points as such, but everything else that you've done will be saved in your preset. And then when you've done that, you basically just want to save the whole thing, and you'll go back to Lightroom and the image will be there. Okay, so now back in Lightroom, you'll see that it's slightly different to the version that I did, but not much. That's one of the ways that we can use Silver Efex Pro. But also, you can open them, you can send them from Lightroom directly into Photoshop, or just any image that you've got open in Photoshop. You can do the same thing by selecting Silver Efex Pro from the filters menu. But one of the good things about working in Photoshop, there's a few advantages to working in Photoshop. I don't do this so often, but there are advantages. One is that if you convert your image for smart filters, then you will be able to, everything that you do in Silver Efex Pro will be repeatable or editable. If you decide that you want to move a control point later, you can. You can't do that in the Lightroom plugin. Everything that you do is baked in. If you make a mistake, decide you want to do something else, you have to go back and start on your original again. But when you're in Photoshop, if you convert to smart filters and then open Silver Efex Pro 2, it just gives you a message here that it's identified that it's an active layer, and it'll operate as a smart filter. The brush button will be deactivated. Brushing is basically a way of masking the effect in. Really use that as well. Then once you're in here, it's pretty much exactly the same. Well, it is exactly the same dialogue. We can go back. You'll see that these are shared, as I said. You can go back, and I'm just going to quickly drop another, just to show you that this is saved with the image. We'll just do a quick one of those again. Actually, before we move on, another thing that you'll notice, something else that's new, is the history panel. You see that everything I do, so that I can show you this, I am gonna duplicate this, and you'll see as we duplicate the control point, it gets added to the history menu. Moving, everything that you do is put into the history panel, and then if you wanted to change the size, go back, you can do that very easily by clicking on the history, which is great. So let's just click out of here, go back, okay, so you'll see now as we come back into Photoshop that we now have we've got the smart filter and Silver Efex Pro 2 in a layer up there, and that basically will allow us to double click back on this and open it up and continue to edit with the same dialogue just where we left off. Okay, so back in the plugin in Silver Efex Pro, let's go back to the other view. So here you can see we're back in, and we do have the control points that we had earlier. Take those off to show you the effect. Everything that we did is still editable, and that's a big plus if you think that you're working on a photo, you're doing a bit of dodging and burning with these control points, and you think you've got it right, but sometimes you do have to go back and tweak the settings a little bit. So this is a very big plus if you're doing that. So I'm just going to cancel out of there for now. What I wanted to do is also look at the Deer stag that I talked about earlier, and I really just wanted to show you that with the opacity you can, this is the effect that I was talking about earlier. Just did a conversion, and then on the layer I reduced the opacity to 80%, and if you put that up to 100 you can see that it's a straight black and white, and as you reduce it you can see that it starts to give you a little bit more of a duotone effect. It's just really bringing back in a little bit of the colour in the deer, and I thought that was an interesting way of handling that, so I just thought I'd introduce that to you today as well. Now I do quickly want to, I'm going to take this off and start Silver Efex Pro 2 one more time to show you the natural borders that we have. Okay, so back in Silver Efex Pro 2, let's just grab. I'm not going to go overboard on the actual conversion, but with an image that's got a lot of white on it, I wanted to show you the thing that I was hoping for in the Silver Efex Pro 1, which is now you can actually apply a burn. I probably won't use this, I just thought it would make more sense to have a way to apply a burn to all four corners, and this is now available via this pull down. Now I still would like to see a button here, because this is the only way to do this as a custom. Instead of doing this and burning one side and then doing the top, burning that again, I would still like to see an all four corner button here, all four sides button here, but you can do that now by just selecting the preset there. And one last thing, this is another new feature in version 2. We now have image borders. Again, this is a little bit gimmicky, I'm not sure I'll use it, but I do see this kind of image on the web, so I'll just let you know about this before we finish. You can, if you click on the image borders, it says off to begin with, then you've got 14 types of borders that you can just go through. You select one of these, add it to your image, and it's just a really easy way to make it look a little bit different. This is probably one of my favorites, but again, I don't think I'll use this, but it's new, so I'll tell you about it. So that's it. I'm going to close this, just to get rid of that for now. Get rid of that. Now, going back to Lightroom, I am going to just say again, that the way you can enhance images with this software is really just second to none. It's often, I went through trying to figure out which one of these images to show you how to use the control points and things on, and I actually hadn't used control points on any of these images. This was just my presets, and it was a generic conversion across the whole image. The only photo that I've actually used control points on this year was the dandelion ball, and that was only a couple to reduce the background a little bit. So really great effect, very easy to do. Like I say, if you decide to try this at all, do go and try it first by all means, and then if you do decide to buy it, go over and either click on this panel here, or just enter the code MBP15 when you're checking out for a 15% discount. And that's it. Thanks for watching today. You can hook up with me in a number of ways, and the best way that I suggest is, if you go over to martinbaileyphotography.com, there is a bunch of sliding doors that show you, this is pretty much everything I'm into on the web, all of my sites and things. But also, if you want to hook up on one of the social networking sites, we've got Google+, 500px now, Facebook, Flickr, Vimeo, YouTube, also Twitter of course, and this is just another link to my blog, and you can subscribe to the podcast as well with this button if you're not already subscribed. So really, thanks very much for watching today, and I'll see you again next week with another episode. In the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye bye.